Hey, what's up YouTube? It's Bobby, aka Paginator, and I have got a magical tag for you today. It's been a while since I've done a tag, and I saw G from Book Roast do this magical spells tag, and so I hurried and wrote down the questions and decided I was going to do it when I had a minute. So the way this tag works is there are 10 questions based on spells from Harry Potter, and there's a prompt that goes with each spell that you have to tell about a book. And so we'll just get started, shall we? Number 1, Expecto Patronum, a childhood book that is connected to good memories. For this I chose Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. You can see my copy is quite well used and worn out. I've read this book and this particular copy of this book many times, and good memories that I have connected to this are when I was actually in elementary school, at upper elementary. I would go into the library, and our library was so cool. There was a loft, and there was these big bean bags of stuffed animals and all these fun things, and I vividly remember sitting in that library feeling super comfortable and reading Little Women and just like feeling like I'm home, if that makes any sense. Alright, number 2, Expelliarmus, a book that took you by surprise. For this one I chose When Dimple Met Rishi by Sanjay Menon. This book took me by surprise because of how much I loved it. Usually with contemporary young adult romances, I don't usually reread them, but I've read this one twice, and I'm going to reread it again this summer because I just want to, and I love it so much. Alright, number 3 is Prior Incantato, the last book you read. And I do not exaggerate when I say I finished this book less than an hour ago. Enchanté by Gita Trellis. First of all, let's just appreciate the cover of this book. It's gorgeous. Of course, it's got the red, white, and blue, the colors of the French flag, also flags of other countries, but specifically the French flag, because this is the French Revolution, the time of Marie Antoinette and Louis XVI, but told from the point of view of a young girl who uses magic. So we have magic and history mixing together, and it's a very interesting story. Excuse me. Sorry, I felt that sneeze coming on, and you just can't avoid them. So our main character, Camille, uses magic, and she hasn't been taught a whole lot of magic by her mother. Unfortunately, her mother and father passed away, and she and her siblings are trying to survive in very poor areas of Paris, and she's doing everything she can to keep her and her sister well. Her brother used to be a soldier, but he's kind of just decided to drink and gamble everything away, and finally he ends up stealing everything that they have, even down to the girls' dresses, and just gambling them away. And she decides, enough's enough, I've got to break out the magic and find a way to keep my sister and I alive. And she meets some very interesting characters. Some are actual historical figures that she meets. She actually speaks with the Marquis de Lafayette, and she sees Thomas Jefferson at a play or an opera. She speaks with Marie Antoinette, and there are some other historical figures in here as well. And she also meets a young balloonist, who is a young man who was born in India, but his father's an English nobleman, and so he lives, or French nobleman, excuse me. He lives in Paris now, and so she's quite intrigued with him because he's interested in learning things, which she is. She's very scholarly minded. I think she would be a Ravenclaw probably if she were sorted into Harry Potter. Anyway, I don't want to tell you everything else that happens with this book. One, because I don't have enough time, and you probably don't want to listen to me ramble on forever and ever, but 2, because I have other books to talk about in this tag. So I will say it is a little bit thicker. It's about 430 pages, but very well worth the read, very well written. And I posted a picture of it on Instagram, and the author commented on it, and I'm like, oh, yay, excited anytime that happens, right? Alright, number 4, Alohamora, a book that introduced you to a genre you hadn't considered before. This is a book that I've had for a long time, so I was actually open up to this genre a while ago. This is called Life is So Good, and the author is George Dawson, and also written with Richard Glaubman. George Dawson is the man on the cover here, and he was 100 or so years old. No, he was 98 years old when he learned to read, and he lived through extraordinary things in his life and really went through a whole lot. And then at 98 he started going to school and learning to read, and it's kind of this amazing story of all the things that he's been through and things like that. So this book really opened me up to the idea of reading memoirs, and I still don't read them as much as I do young adult or other kinds of books, but this is the one that really got me into thinking, oh, this is cool to read about something that a person's really been through. Number 5, Riddikulus, a funny book you have read. I had to go with My Plain Jane by Cynthia Ashton, no, I said that wrong. Cynthia Hand, Brody Ashton, and Jody Meadows. I'm so sorry, ladies. These three, the Lady Janies, these three authors are hilarious when they work together. This is a take on Jane Eyre mixed in with ghosts, and if you read carefully, there is a slight subtle reference to Jamie and Claire from Outlander. But super, super funny. Their other book is My Lady Jane, which was about the Lady Jane Grey, and they're going to do a third one. They're not a series. You can read them separately. I don't know what their third Jane is. I'm really hoping it's going to be something to do with Jane Austen. Maybe Jane Bennet from Pride and Prejudice. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed on that one. Whatever it is, I know it's going to be good and funny. Number 6 is Sonorous, a book you think everyone should know about. I really struggled picking this one, but I ended up choosing Stepsister by Jennifer Donnelly. This is the story of the stepsister who cut off her toes. Remember in the Brothers Grimm and Cinderella when the stepsister cut her toes off so she could fit her foot in the glass slipper? Well, this is her story, and Jennifer Donnelly is a fantastic writer. I will read anything that she writes, and this was just beautiful, and I really think that everyone should read it. If you're a fan of Cinderella or retellings or just a good story about a girl taking charge of her own destiny, read Stepsister. In fact, I went to Barnes & Noble with a friend of mine, and as we were walking up to the door, she said, "Quick, tell me a book you recommend before we even get in there." And I said, "Stepsister!" So I would recommend it to all of you out there. Number 7 is Obliviate, a book or spoiler you would like to forget having read. Forest of Lost Secrets by Emmett and Clarice Swan. I am a member of a website called Library Thing, and they have early reader copies and member giveaway copies that you can sometimes get, and usually the ones I've got from them are ebooks, but I did get a physical copy from this website from these two authors, Forest of Lost Secrets. So I was super excited to get a physical copy, and I thought, I am going to do this right. I'm going to read it. I'm going to take notes through the whole book. I'm going to do a really good review on my channel and give them as much support as I can because they sent me like a physical book. Then I started reading it. First, let me say the idea for the story is cool. They have these different elixirs. Like green elixir makes you invisible, blue elixir changes your form, but the red elixir is the most valuable of all. It takes 200 years to distill, yet one drop can transport you to other realms. So that's part of the dust jacket, or the back of the book, and I read that and thought, oh, this is going to be really cool. No. The writing was crap, and I hate to say that, but I already published my review on Library Thing. The author knows how I feel about the writing, and I did say this is a great idea for a story. If you could clean up the writing, the story would really shine, and it would be awesome. Let's just have a couple of examples. So you know how when you're talking to someone and you're trying to sum up something and you say, that's the gist of it? G-I-S-T. That's the correct use for that word, G-I-S-T. Well, two characters in this book were talking, and one of them said, "Surely you gist," meaning surely you jest, J-E-S-T, like joke around. But they said, "Surely you gist." Did they not have an editor for this? Like, usually editors will catch something like that if the author doesn't. Lots of little things like that to do with word choice, spelling, the sentence structure. Hey, I'm an English teacher, I'm going to notice those things. But then there were some things that were just completely ridiculous. For example, there are two sisters, and they happen to be, or no, it's a sister and a brother. They happen to be in a forest that these trees are magically enchanted with the spirits of boys from the past. And one of the trees moved, and one of the siblings, I forget if it was the brother or sister, was like, the tree's moving. Well, trees move all the time. So maybe they need to clarify there was no wind if they wanted that to be special. And then also in that scene they go, the trees are alive. Last time I checked, trees were living beings. There's no chalking that up to just a simple grammar mistake or typo. That's some knowledge gone wrong. I will say, after I published my review, and I tried to still be positive, although being honest, the author sent me a message and said, gee, we had professional editors go through this. We did see that just thing. Oops, that's embarrassing. Would you have a minute to tell us the other things that we should fix? Maybe one of the earlier versions got published. Okay, one, how hard is it to look at, if you have different drafts saved, to decide which one is the final one? If you're that unfamiliar with your book, maybe you need to spend some more time with it. And two, no, I am not going to go through and change your grammar mistakes for you, because I'm an English teacher, I do that for a living, and I'm on summer break. I am not going to do that for you. Sorry. So, yes, I have talked about this book a lot. And if you go on Amazon, there are a couple of reviews on there that people say, oh, this was a great story. I don't know what they're thinking, because great idea for a story, but the writing was crap. So I wish I could forget this book. Alright, enough about that one. Number 8, Imperio, a book you had to read for school. I'm always talking about Jane Austen or things, or Harry Potter. I didn't have to read Harry Potter for school, but Jane Austen I definitely did, and I thought, oh, that would be easy to grab Jane Austen, or like Frankenstein. But the classics are something I think that a lot of people who do this tag talk about as being assigned to read in school. So I decided to grab something that was maybe a little bit unusual. I have The Horse Goddess by Morgan Llewellyn. I took a Celtic history class in college, and the professor wanted us to read a fictional book set in a Celtic country, and Morgan Llewellyn is a fantastic author. She writes a lot of historical romance and like historical things based on things that happened in Scotland, Ireland, Wales, and England. And this was a little bit, I'm trying to remind myself, I think it was all over the place, because they spend some time in the Celtic countries, but they're also in the Ukraine, and they go through the Alps, so they're kind of all over Western Europe, and a little bit into Eastern Europe. But this author also has like Brian Boru, who is a Scottish hero, and tons of other historical Celtic history. Red Branch is another one that she wrote, so look her up, Morgan Llewellyn. She has lots of L's in her name if you're interested in Celtic historical fiction. Alright, we've got 2 more left. Number 9, Crucio, a book that was painful to read. I'm sorry. This book is beautiful, and I really like this author's other stuff, but The Gilded Wolves was painful for me to get through. I got it in an Owlcrate box, and I loved it. I got the special Owlcrate cover with the different colored flowers on it, and I was so excited to read it, and I had to force myself to get through the end of it. I don't know why. I didn't love it so much, and I'm struggling even now to remember who our characters are. Severin, that's right. I think it was because it's kind of getting the crew together, like this motley crew of people to pull off a heist kind of story, and I I mean, we get that in Six of Crows, and there's a bunch of those, and so maybe it was kind of the trope that threw me off, but I really struggled getting through this, and I have seen a couple of other people on BookTube that also struggled with this one, so I don't feel like I'm alone in this. I know some people also really loved it, so again, this is just a personal opinion. Feel free to disagree with me, just disagree respectfully. Alright, and then the last one, number 10, Avada Kedavra, a book that could kill, interpret as you will. So, I picked The Disasters by PC Cast and Kristen Cast. And I interpreted this as a book that could kill in a couple of ways. In the first couple of chapters of this book, a whole town is killed, so literally this book kills off a whole lot of characters. But it also has killed my desire to read more from these authors, and it makes me feel so sad. I read the entire House of Night series and their Otherworld series. They did a couple of books that were parallel universe to the House of Night, and I really liked those. But I don't know what happened with this one. I kind of feel like they were just relying on their same dialogue style, character personality kind of thing, because the male lead character in here calls his grandpa G-Pa, which is what Zoe Redbird in the House of Night series called her grandma's G-Ma. Sorry, ladies, very few people in real life actually use that, so you need to, like, figure out something else. Just have them say grandpa. That's what most people say. And the female main character is just a jerk, and I want to say other words for her, but I don't want to be a potty mouth. She's a jerk, and she's so rude, and apparently later on in the book, the two lead characters fall for each other. I didn't even get that far. I got to page 87, and I could not read any more. Positives for this book, it does have a cool cover, okay? Pretty blue cover with the lightning strike in it. The end papers are really cool. We have the female lead character in the front of the book, and the male lead character in the end. They also had an artist do some illustrations. Now, I don't know if it was the authors that did the illustrations or if it was like an artist that they hired. I couldn't find any information in the copyright pages or anything on who the artist was. I want to show you. Where's a good example? There's lots of illustrations through here. We'll show you this one. So there's two tornadoes, and then we have the male lead, which is the guy in the football uniform, the dark shirt, and then the female lead is over here, and her mom, adopted mom, is down here. Actually, I'm not sure if she's her adopted mom. It's not explained very well. It kind of seemed more like she was just kind of like a godmother, someone that took her in and looked after her. But then at one point she refers to her as the wife of her adoptive father who passed away. It's very confusing, and there are a lot of things that aren't explained very well. For example, at one point the male character says, "Hey, we have the same birthday." And I read back, like went back and looked like 3-4 pages, and she never said when her birthday was. So how did he figure that out? I don't get it. Tate is the boy, and the girl is Foster, and apparently I've blocked their names out, even though it was only 2 days ago that I was trying to read this, because I just didn't love it. I really wish that I did, because again, I like those authors, but this book's kind of killed my desire to read any more from them. So I feel like I've ranted a lot in this video. I've gone on for 20-something minutes now, and hopefully when I edit I can get that down shorter. This is a tag, so I'll tag Melissa and Barnsey, and anyone else who wants to do this tag, poof, you're tagged. I know this tag went around a while ago, so it might be out of fashion now, but it was fun for me to do and go through these books. So I'm going to wish you all a wonderful and bookish day. Happy reading. Adios.